leisure portals where price of a mistake is not that high. I mean, if you're searching for ports and you got the wrong port, you'll probably find. It is different in the, say, pharmaceutical area because there you need high quality tagging and they have very high price of a mistake. You don't want to be treated with something that is similar to tetracycline. It also starts with T, so probably tetracycline, there's another T. Yeah. So they accept higher costs, but that's a totally different story. How do they do it? First, it comes with highly curated content, and they carefully check what is being tagged with what. But it's a totally different story that I will not talk about. The final thing is, remember this slide, yeah? I mean, especially the last one, that like this cluster. What we're practically doing under the hood, we had a graph, like those many databases linked together and those terms linked together. And we hooked, we're searching for the rare, so we hooked on the rare. And then we went through this graph to the style link, and we found this nice, more or less isolated cluster, or this cluster that we could isolate and give it a meaning. That was people who dropped in this style, so we returned it back as the search results. One of the practicalities, like, this is a lucky case. Most often, when we will be tracing that graph, we would end up nowhere. There are a lot of dead ends in those graphs. So the Durham may have been in a place, but nobody else has been there, so we get a dead end. That's actually not that bad. Because there is the other side. If you're talking about modern art, then everyone worked in Paris. Literally everyone worked there or been there or dreamt about being there, or anyway. And this is the Paris barrier there. Because whenever road you take in that graph, you hit Paris. And suddenly you have millions of links that go out of it. It's like the place where it's easy to come, it's easy to go, but there are too many roads. And that's actually a big problem. If you're tracing the graph automatically, and if you come to style, you have like 3 links out, hey, it's a nice cluster. If you come to Paris, you have, let's say, 6 million links out. So there are 2 types of search that you can do if you have a graph and you want to find something meaningful, something to sell. It's like you can do explorative search. Like you can go in this graph left and right, try to trace it in different directions, hoping to find some meaningful suburbs. But there's a big problem there. You try to find meaning by looking at the graph topology. You see, hey, there are 5 links out, okay, that's a nice cluster, but there's a topology. It has a little to do with the meaning of that cluster. And it's a little bit like recognizing the discovery by the text layout. Here is a document that has 2 paragraphs and 5 numbers. Is it a discovery or not? Nah, it doesn't look like that. It's a document with 3 paragraphs and 5 numbers. Oh, that looks serious. But it's this type of problem. You can search for certain patterns. Like you may think of this typical police pattern, person, something, person. Tracing people, linking people on a chain. Well, the problem with that is that it may be expensive. You may not find much interesting, but hey, you may still find something cool. The last thing is like you can do the targeted search. One of the things we try to do, there are 2 people on Hook and the gang, and they play a role in modern art and Dutch modern art especially, and they were connected. I mean, both were a little bit insane, and they were connected in this insane way when Hook cut his ear and blah, blah, blah. But they were really connected. It is a well-known story. And you try to find their connection. So in this type of search, you see, hey, this is one thing, this is another thing, how they're connected, how can we go from one to another. It was actually failed because the type of connection was not reflected in the graph. And you can find a biomedical example of exactly the same problem. Imagine you have this database, you have a disease, flu, you have alcohol, how can you treat flu with alcohol? Please give an explanation. It doesn't matter which one. And the world has changed now. I mean, when we were doing that, we had to fit everything into memory, and we faced a lot of problems. Especially for this kind of explorative search, where you need to do a lot of number crunching. You can go through graphs in many, many different ways. Now we have the machinery. We have things, we have cloud computing, we have clusters, we have graph analyzing tools that can work distributedly on a clustered environment. So we have more of the kind of technologies, and that's actually what I believe will be happening. Practically, look, the database theory is very old. I mean, this 1988 is maybe, it started in the 60s, the database theory as we know it. The graph theory is also from the 60s and 70s. Those are very old mathematical constructions. And eventually the database theory, when we managed to build computers, when we managed to have the possibility, the tools, we also had the problems, and it ended up with the business, with the modern databases. That's a huge business, a lot of problems solved. You know what databases are. And I think that now with cluster computing and with increasingly interconnected world as we see it now, it is getting more and more interconnected, then we do have the machinery and we do have the business needs. We do have the business problems emerging around that. That should do exactly the same thing to the graph theory. But maybe in like 5, 10 years, we will have the kind of comparable impact of the book to the right, as we have the impact of the book to the left. And that's actually all I wanted to tell. Thanks a lot for listening. And I think we have time for a few questions, and we probably have a party outside. You have questions, comments? Party?
Now is the time to ask questions. Anyone? You got everything from the presentation.
Tell me.
Okay, well done you then, Boris. Thank you very much. So, as Boris mentioned, the next part of our conference is the party, the cocktail and networking part. Now, I have one question for you though. You didn't have questions to Boris, but I have a question to you. Did every one of you enroll in the Excel sheet for the raffle? Because now we will be drawing the winners. Is there anyone who didn't enter their name for the raffle? You all entered. You can't, Boschko, I'm sorry. You work for us. I'm sorry, maybe next time. So all of you already have registered. Then what I propose is, just bear with me for a couple of minutes. I'll bring my laptop and we're going to do the drawing here. And then we're all moving outside to have a cocktail, to have a few drinks, and go raving. Okay, just bear with me for 2 minutes.